Hello, and thank you for tuning in today. I'm owner-operator Chris Lasakis for Native DNA, and today I would like to discuss with you the difference between mixed mode and unmixed mode population lists and what we have to offer here at Native DNA. So the first thing I would like to do is show you the difference in information or data readout from one of our customers. In order to protect her identity, I'm going to refer to her as Jessica. So Jessica is African American living in the southeastern United States, and you can see here her singular results over here on the left. Illinois African American is number 1, and over here on the right you see a little bit different of returns. So Ojibwe of Michigan and Songa from South Africa, one of the South African populations there, native populations. And the second list is Trinidad on singular population mode, and the second for mixed mode is Ojibwe and Sao Tome and Principe for the mixed mode. So as you can see, the mixed mode is quite a bit more cluttered. There's a lot more going on there, a lot more information that's being presented, but knowing exactly what that information means can be a bit tricky and take a bit of time to understand, but it's actually clearer than what you see over here on the left, believe it or not, once you get the hang of it. So if you're really good at understanding what makes up populations from around the world, you can use your singular mode lists to learn more about your ancestry or to be able to read it accurately on the first go-round. So you know that the Illinois African American people, they're going to have a Native American feature to their admixture to their ancestry, as are the people from Trinidad. The Virginia African Americans do as well, have a Native American component. Pretty much all of these top populations are going to have a Native American component to them. Jessica's father is known to be Jamaican, and her mother is African American. So you can see those results represented in both the singular mode and mixed mode lists. Over here on the left, the Trinidad represents a Caribbean connection. Sometimes you'll see African Americans that have a sizable or significant Native American component demonstrate this population as well, match this population also. But the other results are screaming to me a Caribbean connection. The Cayman Islands, a population that she matched. There's another Trinidad, as are some of the other populations, the Garifuna people from Honduras, and so on and so forth. But you don't see, and here's Jamaica down here, but it's a fair amount down the list. This is 5.06 times 10 to the 37. That's how you read that. And up here at the top, it's 8.45 times 10 to the 36. So you have almost 1 power of 10 difference between the first match and her Jamaican match. And so indicating that she is definitely strongly admixed. Over here on the right, the Jamaica pops up a little bit sooner. However, when you mix different Caribbean populations together like we did, you can see Jamaica right here within this first string of results on the 4th match down. But as you can see, it's strongly admixed. Bahamas, Jamaica, Trinidad, mixed with an Ojibwe population from Michigan, Algonquin-speaking Ojibwe people. So what that tells you is not only the incredible diversity, but each population has its own subsidiary populations, which can be broken down independently. And knowing where all populations come from around the globe is so incredibly important when trying to understand your ancestry. And that it is oftentimes so much deeper than you think it is at first. And this goes for everyone, myself included. I have been baffled so many times by my own ancestry when trying to determine it, especially, multiple lines. But anyway, I've got some Native Hawaiian ancestry that has been a trick to trace down and to find in the data, but we've found it multiple times, as well as Native American ancestry from North Carolina. So, but in Jessica's case, what you see here is on the right, there's numerous Native American populations in the mixed data. Ojibwe, Michigan, you have Creek from Georgia right here, and you go down and there's even more. You have Romani heritage here, Cherokee ancestry, which is what Jessica thought the only Native American population she thought she was at first. And then, she was first tested at 15 STR markers. We upgraded her with our test to 28 STR markers, and were able to find so much information for her. And I'm very thankful for that, that we were able to do that for her. And then at Choctaw, she does have ancestry from Mississippi, Virginia. I'm trying to remember where else she told me, Alabama, southern Alabama, among several other places. So, but this readily demonstrates that. She has some ancestry from Virginia and North Carolina as well. And these results demonstrate that very well. The Ojibwe population, folks, some of y'all may be wondering, why is the Ojibwe so strong? And we'll go back and discuss her results as they pertain to the singular mode or unmixed mode here in just a moment. But you may be wondering, why is the Ojibwe popping up so much for someone of mixed Native American ancestry from the southeastern United States? It's from the trade routes. Folks, there was so much trading that went on between the Great Lakes region and the southeastern United States. If you want to see that demonstrated, go to Google and type in Native American trade routes and then search images. Do that search string and then hit images, the image search. I mean, you could probably just do the all function too and search for all things, text and images, but the images option will give you a strong demonstration of just how much trading there was across the North American continent. It's incredible. And, between Mexico and the Caribbean, South America, and well up into Alaska and Northwest Canada, etc., far western U.S., so it's a mouthful. It's so much to discuss, but that's why Ojibwe, Michigan's popping up, is because of the trades between the Algonquins in the north, United States and Canada, Great Lakes and Canada region, as well as the southeastern United States. So the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, all the Creek, all the southeastern tribes, the major ones, and smaller ones too, interacted with the Ojibwe people, the Algonquin speakers from the north. I know the Shawnee have that component too. Obviously, everywhere between the southeast and Canada is going to have that. So that's demonstrated very strongly. And then you start to see Mestizo, Quindio, Columbia. This is tied into Taino ancestry, I believe, and connected through the Caribbean, either through her Jamaican ancestry or as she told me, she believes it's connected through her mother's ancestry to the southeastern United States. So, but going down through the rest of her list, you can see Cherokee, all these mixed populations, pretty much all the native populations stay the same from here south, from here down. But if you go over here on the left, you're not going to see the same population distribution as you do on the right. You're not going to see the Ojibwe sticking out like a sore thumb, which is a good thing if you wanted to determine your tribal affiliate or get more clues as to what could be your tribal affiliate. And I know we have a lot of doubters out there, folks that have heard or been told that you cannot determine tribal affiliate from a DNA test. Yes, you can. And we'll have that conversation again at some other time. Is it always possible? No. Is it often possible? Yes. And so obviously the more populations you have, the better the data quality you have, the better, the more powerful the interrogation techniques for the data, the better, on and so on and so forth. But we'll have that conversation again some other time, because I have some examples that I would like to share with you that shows you that you can, in fact. And I know this is going to be highly controversial, and that's fine. But you can do it, and it's possible, and we do it all the time here at Native DNA. So anyway, moving forward, you can see here on the left, these have to be unpacked. And folks, what I want to do is go ahead and just jump into it, into the core, the crux of the discussion. Some people may find mixed mode more accurate, and some may find it less. That's just the nature of the game. That's how it goes. Some people will love their mixed mode lists far more than their unmixed or singular mode, and that's cool. It's both are there to be able to be digested and to attempt to be understood. The asterisk here, you will likely learn something with both modes as your data is presented in a different light. Yeah, so with Jessica's data, when we first gave her mixed mode results, you can see the admixture breakdown a little bit better here than you can here. With here, you have to understand what is contained within each population. The Illinois African American people have 70-75% sub-Saharan African ancestry. They probably have 3-4-5% on average Native American heritage, European heritage on top of that, and so on and so forth. So you have to be able to extract not only the populations contained with each one of these, but know something about their admixture contribution to be able to unpack which one, what each line is telling you, line by line. And to be able to hear, it's a little bit, it's already, been cooked and ready to be served and eaten right here, so to say, on the right. You have a full course meal right here being served at the table. All you have to do is sit down and absorb the information, partake. So anyway, let's keep going here with the discussion. Number 2, it's simply another way of representing your data. It is. With singular or unmixed mode, the calculator is forced to assign your data to only one population at a time instead of a mix, as it's done with mixed mode. This can lead to confusion if not properly interpreted. Also known as, or in other words, why did my populations change? We've heard this a lot. And Jessica was even surprised when she got her results back. Why did they change so much? Why, when I'm given singular mode populations, why did they change so much from my mixed modes? That's because they have to be unpacked. You have to be able, the data is being forced into one population at a time over here on the left. Whereas over here on the right, you're being spoon-fed a little bit more, and they're unpacked, ready to go for you over here on the right side with the mixed mode. Okay? The more mixed you are, the more confusing it can become, as the singular unmixed mode calculator is forced to match your complex heritage with just a few top populations, as we were just mentioning, or high-end matches. It's forced to represent everything in line by line, and you have to unpack it with singular mode. It is often much more difficult to assign ancestral admixture percentages using singular mode. Yes, that is absolutely true. So as I mentioned before, her top population is Illinois African American, but notice that the gradient, the match score gradient, is not that tight between these two. You don't have hardly any gradient there. You have 3/10 of 1 power of 10, and that's 2/10 of 1 power of 10, and that's pretty much negligible. You can distinguish populations that way, but it's really tough. However, here you start to get a bit more of a gradient, going from the top down through about 15 populations down. The gradient's not strong, but you get a bit more of a gradient. And so we know, I mentioned what the Illinois African American population is. There's also the Trinidadian African population, which runs anywhere between 7 and 10%, about 8%, 9% Native American on average. And I believe that's the Native American percentage we actually assigned to Jessica and her results. So this is giving you a hint as to what the ancestral percentages could be. And okay. So I could say something else there, but I'm not sure. It may not be legally binding. So I don't know. But anyway, we're just going to move on. So continuing on down the list, you can see there's other populations with the mixed mode that scream of her Jamaican heritage up through her father's family, the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, the Bahamas and Trinidadian matches. That's probably a combination of similarity by like combination, which think of why African Americans sometimes get Polynesian matches. They can be legit, but many times what it is it's representing their combination of sub-Saharan African ancestry, European and Native American heritage, which the Polynesian people have all those as well. So It's wrapping it all up and trying to represent your data any way it can. And so sometimes African American people get Polynesian matches. That's a whole nother discussion. Some of them could be legit from like the South American populations, Chile and the Amazon from Brazil and Peru. There's some Polynesian ancestry that was introduced there way back from seafaring peoples, Polynesians across to South America. But anyway, we won't chase that rabbit trail right now. That's a good discussion, though. I love that discussion, as was proven by Thor Heyerdahl back in the 1930s, I believe. Norwegian explorer that set across from South America back west toward Tahiti. Anyway, so let's see here. What else do we have? All right, let's continue our discussion. Number 3, yes, we've already mentioned that. This bottom bullet down here, think of a freestyle painter who has a palette of 10 paints but does not know what they will paint, only that they will use each of these 10 paint colors to some extent during their painting session. Likewise, the singular mode population results indicate that you have certain types of ancestry. Yes, absolutely. So in other words, what that's saying, folks, that last line down there, is that on the left, your singular mode results, when you get a match for a certain population, you can nearly be sure that you have ancestry from that population, especially within like maybe the top 20. And that depends on the gradient score, the match score gradient as well. So it's really hard to make conclusions on that without extensive experience. But be sure to note your top populations over here on the left on singular mode, because what it's telling you is, like with this painter analogy here, it's telling you you have the ancestry, but it can be so difficult with singular mode to know how much that you have until you start mixing populations and breaking them down and interacting them with one another in the data to know exactly how much. And even then, it's tough to know exactly how much, but to give you a sound, precise estimate, right? Reasonably accurate over and over again, precision. So until you start creating a mixed mode profile for that person, it can be really difficult to know what their admixture is. And I use a program called Structure. That's capital S, capital T, all capitals, STRUCTURE, Structure. It's a great program for analyzing STR and SNP data, but I've used it to analyze STR data for admixture percentages, and it works really well. So we'll continue on with the discussion. Number 4, there's much more to unpack with singular mode, as I mentioned, whereas it's much more unpacked for you and ready to go with the mixed mode. Number 5, singular mode can be likened to drinking from a high output fire hose. Yeah, so much data coming at you all at once, right? And you have to unpack that information. You have to think, well, what makes up the Illinois African American population? What are their subsidiary populations, ancillary populations? How about Trinidad? Virginia? Okay, what Native American populations can be represented here, and in what admixtures? What African populations can be represented? Florida, and much the same all the way down through, like Sao Tome and Principe, for example. I'll just give this to you as another example. This was Jessica's number 1 sub-Saharan African match. Right through here, you can see 75% Sao Tome located within this gradient right here, which is relatively weak. So the Sao Tome people have significant ancestry from Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Benin, Nigeria. And so from that, you can then deduce other conclusions about her sub-Saharan African ancestry, which is cool. Always good to be able to find the roots of all populations. So let's see here. Going down, New York African Americans, continue on down the list. Each one of these has to be unpacked, folks. That's how you do that. You have to think, okay, well, what makes up the California African American population? Really, what makes up their population? Not just brush it off and just assume that you know. Really dig deep and research. You know, the California African American population came to be in the mid-1800s during the gold rush. and so on and so forth. And you'll learn more about it and learn that they actually have some Mexican Native American ancestry at times that'll show up. So that's really cool. And so don't make the mistake of just assuming that you know before you try to unpack each population with your singular mode. Okay, just a couple of words of advice, just from having learned some lessons myself. Yeah, okay, let's see. Yes, number 5. Singular mode can be likened to drinking from a higher output fire hose. It can be done, but it takes practice with singular mode, and you've got to be careful. Okay. Number 6, different populations, but there are advantages to each. Folks, that's the number one thing. When you get your singular mode list, and you've had our mixed mode list, and you're like, okay, this is really easy to digest with the mixed mode. And then you get your singular mode. Don't just, brush it off and think, oh, this is junk. Really think deeply and focus. It may take several weeks to really get down to the bottom of it, even a month. To really, begin to firmly grasp what makes up those singular mode populations. What are they composed of? Each one of them. Okay. Yeah. Number 6, different populations often appear when comparing mixed versus singular mode lists. We discussed that. This is due to a more compact and direct listing of your results being available to you with singular mode, which eliminates your need to sift through a sea of mixed mode results. You can see that here. A lot of people, when they get their mixed mode results, which it used to be the only list we would send customers with their results package, their STR results package. Remember, we're talking about STR results here, not SNP. Our SNP data package is completely different. It comes with a certificate of ancestry and 2 world maps. Your individual population map, and then your regional map. The STR data, our STR results deliverables, have a lot more to them. And that's why it's more expensive, not only because the data is more expensive for us to obtain through the lab, our lab, DDC in Ohio, but it takes more work for me to put together. That's why I have to charge more. Okay, so yeah. So a lot of folks will get their mixed mode list back and they'll be like, man, this is confusing. There's so many populations listed here, and that's because it's mixed. And it takes time and a lot of effort sometimes to understand that too. But the mixed mode should be closer to your admixture right out of the box, so to say, and ready to go. A plug and play, as they like to say with mixed mode, pretty much how it's supposed to be. However, with singular mode, the disadvantage there is you got to unpack each one of them. Right? You may not see any Native American populations here, right, with singular mode, but that doesn't mean she's not part Native American, because you have to unpack each one. The Illinois African Americans absolutely have Native American ancestry, not only through the Underground Railroad as they moved out of the South to the North back when, but also as a result of their ancestry from around the Cahokia Mound area. Of the Mississippian period there in East St. Louis, Illinois. So, you have to, folks, the number one thing I've learned about this business, I'll just talk to you just completely and utterly off the cuff here for a moment. Not try to avoid assumptions. And this is difficult for me too, as the owner operator, not to make assumptions until you really, truly dive deep into the data and have a look around and read and go find journals and find articles and discuss things with people and think about it. Where's my family from? Where have they lived? How did people move around through the Native American migration routes? How did they interact? Which tribes participated in warfare? Which tribes, were taken slaves and held captive? And how are these things interrelated, and just the incredible complexity. Sometimes, honestly, it's enough to knock me off my feet, just how complex everything is, and that's not an overstatement whatsoever. Anyway, yeah, I won't bore you with that discussion, but it's fascinating. Okay, going down here to the asterisk associated with number 6. This clutter-free aspect, it's a lot cleaner, isn't it? With singular mode. You don't have the ands, the ampersands. You don't have slots where there's 5 populations mixed, like this one right here, number 4 down. Or, you're left wondering, well, what on earth does this really mean? If with singular mode, everything's nice and orderly. You only have one population mentioned per line, even though you have to unpack that population, so to say, both with its constituent populations and their admixtures within. Okay. However, extensive interpretation is required for singular mode, as each population is providing you with important details. Don't ignore the details. For example, similarity by like combination, influent and effluent populations, the founder effect, and so much more. So much more. Okay, number 7, the singular results are present within the mixed mode results, but can be a hassle to retrieve. The singular mode list removes this hassle. Yeah, so let me show you what that means. What I mean there is Illinois African American here for Jessica. That's at the top of her singular mode population list. You don't see Illinois African American, but that's because this is everything that she is most represented by the Illinois African American population. That it's not being broken down any further here on the right because this is the best singular mix. And so trying to alter it would not put it at the top at all. And so there's other mixes that are actually closer to her total genome similarities than Illinois African American, but you have to mix them manually. And you have to adjust them manually, and that's what we do here. And so Illinois African American, I believe, is down just off the bottom of this mixed mode list for her. So just a little bit further down than this Ojibwe, Michigan, Italy, Tuscany, and Bahamas population right here. So as you can see, folks, there's pluses and minuses to both types. So hang in there if these concepts push the limit of your current understanding. That's understandable. It'll get easier with time. This is an extremely complex field of study. We're all still learning. That is an understatement. Folks, I've been doing this, studying this stuff for 15 years now. I've been running the business now for 11. It'll be 11 years in September. It's hard to believe it's been that long already, and I learn something new every day. I learn as much or more from my customers than I do from myself and from teaching and learning on my own. And as much as I do as I teach them. I'll probably learn as much or more from my customers as I teach them. So, we're all still learning together. We're all in it. Some thought exercises to help right up here at the top. If some of your highest population matches didn't exist, how would this change the interpretation of your results? I know this seems counterintuitive. This seems, a little odd of a question, but think about it for a minute. Let's say that you are Nigerian and you were to remove the top Nigerian matches. Would you be able to decipher that you are Nigerian by the subsidiary matches that are listed after you take away the Nigerian populations? That is, it's kind of a philosophical question approach, but would you be able to decipher that you're Nigerian based on your ancillary/subsidiary populations? Just a thought. Use Google Images to search for pictures of people from your top populations. Do you resemble these people physically? Do understand, though, that gaps between genotype and phenotype exist. However, you should at least loosely resemble your top matches to some degree. And number 3, practice deeply deconstructing the populations on the first few pages of your singular mode list. What are the contributing populations to these matches? This is the crux of the singular mode concept. Yeah, that bottom one is a fine statement, and it's what is necessary to understand the results. So I may have already mentioned this, but Jessica has known Ancestry from Alabama, from Mississippi, from Virginia, and I believe North Carolina, and that all those are represented in her Native American matches. The Ojibwe, that is from interaction of the northern tribes, the Algonquin-speaking Ojibwe people from the north, the Great Lakes region, with interaction with the people of the southeastern United States, like the 5 civilized tribes and others. The trading network across the southeastern U.S. and eastern United States was vast. Networks leading from Michigan down into Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, obviously. So that's a big one, is to understand the trade and migration routes, the warfare between the different tribes, and all that. And over the years, we've had a few customers that have come to us baffled, as to why their Native American results didn't just show Native American from that state. And I can understand why that would confuse some people. But the answer is just that. It's from warfare. It's from trading. It's from migrations. And one neat philosophical approach I'll throw out there regarding that is, well, the Native Americans most of them came from Asia. And so if they can come from Asia to the Southwest U.S. or Western United States, they could come from the Western United States to Alabama or to Mississippi or the Carolinas. So do keep that in mind, just a little bit closer between the Southwest and Eastern United States as it is compared to Asia and the Southwest U.S. Anyway, just a couple of things to think about. I sure hope this has helped folks. And y'all take care, and I look forward to reading the comments. Those are always fun. And soon I'll do a video on how it is possible to tell your tribe. Is it always possible? No. But can you? Yes. Y'all take it easy.